So yesterday we read that first line of parting from the four clingings, which was, if you have clinging to this life, you are not a religious practitioner. I'll tell you a story which happened at the time of Domtemba, a very famous lay practitioner. So once he was going around the temple, circumambulating, so he saw one young monk sitting inside the temple and reading holy scriptures. The master said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I am reading holy scripture." And Domtemba said, "It's good you are reading holy scripture, but it is better you do Dharma practice." So then the young man thought that because this great teacher is making that comment, this may not be the proper way of doing Dharma practice. Then he started going around the temple as we always do, circumambulating. Then the master again said, "It is wonderful you are circumambulating, but it is better you do Dharma practice." He said, "This also seems to be not practice." Then he said, "Oh, I got it. Meditation." Went back into the temple, observed the needed posture, and started doing the meditation. The master came and said, "It is wonderful you are doing meditation, but it is better you do Dharma practice." So now tell me, this is what we do, going around the temple, reading scriptures, even the so-called meditation, which is so famous these days. But the main concern of the mind is this life, to increase your popularity, to become famous, to become wealthy, 100,000 other things, clinging to this life. So therefore, when this young monk completely failed to understand what is the process of doing Dharma practice, then he approached that great master, Domtemba, and he said, on all these occasions you said this is good, but it's better to do Dharma practice. So I'm completely confused now. So how to do Dharma practice? Then he said, what do you think he said? He said, "Give up clinging to this life. Make your mind go to Dharma." That's the most difficult part, making your mind go to Dharma. To act as if you're doing Dharma practice is easy. Shaving head is not so difficult. Buying this cloth, not so difficult. Even studying for 5, 6, 10 years, I studied in the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics quite rigorously, 13, 14 years. Then also I managed to do it. But when it comes to transforming and changing your die-hard addiction, habit, it is almost an uphill task. So therefore it is really, really important to make our small effort to change our addiction, negative attitude, transform your attitude. Now this is not only Buddhists, but scientists and many thinkers, they are talking about emotional regulation, emotional intelligence. There are so many famous books if you read. Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence. They are like world's #1 best-selling books. And what they are primarily talking about is what has been said in the past by the Buddha. Because now, even if you don't believe in nirvana or future life and things like that, but even for this life, if you let your emotions go wild, it's 100% sure that you will suffer, and suffer terribly, during which hardly anybody can then protect you, help you, because your mind is disturbed. You see? So there is no shortcut. There is no instant enlightenment. Right? So one has to really, it is impossible to give up clinging to this life completely, but relax that clinging a little bit, that tight holding to this life a little bit, with understanding, as we explained the two important points yesterday, with the understanding that I found this very precious human life, very precious, no other animals have it. The rest of the animals, if you watch these days, you can watch the behavior of all kinds of animals. And I watch this behavior of animals regularly. They're mostly after each other, killing each other, eating each other, you see. And nothing much they can do. They live only for eating and then be killed and things like that. Whereas human beings have this wonderful intelligence to bring about even enlightenment, or at least great peace and happiness. But what we actually find in today's world is human beings have become the main source of problem. And this is because of using human intelligence, the powerful human intelligence, in the wrong side, by letting it go after attachment, anger, jealousy, negative computation, division. Division is something that we see all the time, black and white, even in Tibet, even among Tibetans, chokasum, stupid things. Men and women, whatever, 100,000 ways to divide. So it's not only the British who followed this divide and rule policy, but in our own limited, we are all following that kind of divide and rule kind of policy, which is horrible, Because nothing can function and exist successfully if you don't know how to live in harmony. If you look at your own physical system, your body will be healthy and can survive only when the whole system is in harmony. When the lung is getting its function, the heart is getting its function, the brain is getting its function. When everybody is cooperating and working together, then you become a healthy person. If there is a kidney failure, imagine. If there is a heart failure, imagine. If there is a brain tumor, imagine. See? And it's not just Buddhism. If you look at the law of nature, the trees, anything, they survive and flourish only when the needed elements are in harmony. When there is a little bit of disruption of the harmony and the power of these elements, then things start crumbling and falling. Right? So therefore it's really important, when we talk about doing Dharma practice, we need to relax this grasping to oneself a little bit. I, me, mine, I, nga, nge, nye, se. We develop this narrow-minded, selfish attitude, or most of the time talking about I, me and mine, and among which most of the time I. Whether you believe it or not, we have this tendency of thinking I am the center of the world, whoever you are. You may be quite insignificant, but still you will think I am the center of the world. And this narrow-minded, self-grasping, the Buddhas and the Buddhist teachers, they have for so many centuries taught about the risk and danger, the destruction that can be brought about by this narrow-minded self-grasping. Now today it is scientifically proved. And I had the pleasure of attending a conference with His Holiness Dalai Lama several years back near a place in New York, where one scientist with data mentioned that those people who make a lot of self-references, I, me and mine, they are more prone to all kinds of physical illnesses, including heart attack. Scientifically proved now. This is so because when you talk about just me and mine, your focus becomes narrow. Nga is a very small thing here. I, me and mine, very small. So when your focus is small, then within that small focus, even if there is a small problem, you tend to see it as if it is unsurmountable. Ngala kangi dinde do amo ngale duga suyore. Ngata so de me yore. I am the most unfortunate person. It's only me who is suffering. God is not taking care of me. Buddha has no compassion for me. We tend to think like that, you see. Completely oblivious to the much more sufferings that is experienced by 100,000 people all around the world. So instead of completely getting bogged down to your personal suffering, if you little bit extend your mental outlook to others who are suffering much more than you, just by that understanding you will say, oh, comparing to these people, I'm much better position. It is a mental perspective. It's a mental perspective. And that perspective itself is very healing for your physical well-being, for your mental well-being, and so forth. So therefore, this text is talking about not to have this clinging to oneself, because if you do that, you are not a practitioner. That's the reason, that's the meaning. It's not saying you don't take care of yourself. Of course, Buddha is teaching the method to take the best care about yourself. And the best way of taking care of yourself is not clinging. That's the point. Because we ordinary people, we think that the more I think about myself, the more I get obsessed, the more I cling, to myself, then I will flourish, I will succeed. With this tendency we go around, you see. And Panchen Losang, one of the Panchen Rinpoches, wrote a book which some of you should read. I think its translation is also available somewhere, English translation, but the Tibetan version is available. Debate between self-cherishing and the bodhicitta. Self-cherishing is just as we are saying, it says, yes, it's only because of me self-cherishing, who always constantly thought about myself, obsessed with myself, thereby I am able to get all this food, clothing and so forth, which seems quite impressive. And the bodhicitta says the other way around. So there's a wonderful debate. It was the English translation, I saw it somewhere, it's already done, but most of us are Tibetans say, so you can read that, very convincing. So the truth, the reality is, the more you get obsessed, the more you cling to yourself, the more you will suffer. Because you develop this narrow-minded attitude. And in fact, it's important to learn here that if you look at this self-cherishing attitude, which is a negative emotion, plus all the other negative emotions, if you look at the feature of all these negative emotions, all of these negative emotions, they are narrow-minded, having no foundation. Very narrow-minded. For example, attachment. When you develop attachment, I like this book, I like this car, I want only this car, I want only this person, only this person. See how narrow-minded? Only this one. I love only this one. Whereas what is taught in Buddhism is loving kindness. Loving kindness is love all sentient beings. Develop compassion towards all sentient beings. But the stupid attachment is saying, I want only this one. I want to tie my neck only to this person. See? Huge difference. Then look at anger. For example, when you get angry, it is almost impossible to get angry with all the sentient beings in the whole world. You normally get angry to somebody. It's she who created this problem for me. It is he who committed this wrongdoing to me. He. You need a target to shoot. You see? So therefore, this narrow-minded, afflictive emotions, when you develop this, it is suffocating. It is constricting. Constricting. As I explained with this process of getting angry, when you get angry, we all have this experience of getting angry. So you should yourself tell or share what kind of attitude you had, what kind of experience, physical, mental experience you had when you got angry. There's nobody whosoever who right in the morning makes a motivation saying that today I will get angry, because we have some idea that anger is not good. Even after that, if you say during the course of the day when you meet different people, especially strange people, you get angry and fight with somebody, then at the end of the day, there is again I can bet. There's nobody who will say, I got angry, I fought with somebody, so I really enjoyed my day. Nobody. So there are 100,000 like things that you can talk about, the disadvantages of getting these negative emotions, including anger. When you get angry, blood pressure increases, your mind doesn't function, you get back pain, neck pain, immediately. And in the night, you are unable to sleep, you keep on thinking about this person who troubled you, then you keep on changing your sides, not being able to. We all have this experience. You see? And to speak in the modern language, I got a book somebody written. So that through anger and hatred, a country like America loses billions of dollars, billions I'm saying, financially. So it's not that these practices are only good for somebody who wants to stay in the cave, and nothing to do with the society. No. We need to understand, especially young people have to understand this. Because otherwise people will think, because we measure our success in terms of immediate material outcome. So even there, of course this profound Buddhist teaching is not for those material outcomes, but even if you measure in that way, your success, your peace, your happiness, your economical development, so much dependent on the mental quality of the people. Like I always tell this example of McLeodganj. How many people are coming here from all over the world to McLeodganj, spending so much money, making a lot of effort. And then it is because of these people, the shops are running, hotels are functioning, some students or kids, they also get some sponsorship, monasteries get some sponsorship or some help, whatever, you see. This is not because these people are coming here in Meghalaya, not because Tibetans are so handsome and beautiful, no. Really 100% I'm sure. Although we may not be terribly ugly, but it's not the main reason. And then Dharamsala itself, again the place itself is not that ugly, but it's not so beautiful so that you have to make so much effort to come to Dharamsala. Even coming from Delhi to Dharamsala is not easy, you see. So why they come here? They come here because of His Holiness. They come here because of the Buddhist teachings, the good culture, you see. So from that you can now measure the outcome of the financial benefit, even if you want to see from that point of view. And then those who have this kind of practices, there will be no corruption, there will be less exploitation. I mean, imagine if you have all this, the place will develop like anything. When people care about each other, if that is there, it will flourish. But when these things are not there, then you have police and so many securities and other things, check and balances, nothing will function as is happening in all the big cities. There is surveillance, camera, spy camera, whatever is there, but people manage to, they are equally clever, you see. So that's not the solution. There's not the solution. So therefore, of course, as I was saying, don't make a mistake. The teaching is not saying don't take care of yourself. In fact, the Buddha said, self is the protector of the self. One has to take care of oneself. But the way of taking care of oneself is realistic process, not the stupid, short-sighted way. Realistically, think long-term benefit for yourself, for your family. Then if you see what will be good, you will be able to clearly see. The more you live nicely in harmony with others, the better it will be. You see. So therefore, if you cling to this life, if you cling to this life only, then how can you achieve nirvana in this life? Impossible. How can you achieve enlightenment in this life? Impossible. So you are already not talking about nirvana enlightenment. Right? Then gradually you also have to say that there is no future life. That will be the conclusion. Then that will probably lead to the conclusion that there is nothing called mind, which is other than the brain activities, as the scientists are saying today. There's the reason. So then we have all the ancient Buddhist, rich, profound Buddhist tradition, the very foundation is then lost. Then you come back to the material world. And if today's material world is enough to give us that long-lasting peace and happiness, then okay, no problem. But I don't really think so. There's so many areas like beauty, truth, honesty, which are still not the field of science. Many non-physical realities. There was a time when Western science was a part of physics, and part of philosophy. And in the ancient time, the philosophy has a lot of metaphysics. Then it looks like some people, clever people, they said this metaphysics is very difficult to understand. It's talking about divine power. Forget it. Kick out this meta. Just keep physics. Mm-hmm. So that's how science came into being, physics. So all the sciences that we have are basically related to physics. Now just by following that physical material world, if we are solving all the problems, then it's okay. But now you see, now the trend is, now again science is coming, almost going back to metaphysics, in the sense that they have started exploring many areas of the mind, the emotions, and so many things. You see. So because reality is reality, you cannot escape just by closing your eyes, you see. Right? And then based on our own experience, we do know that, through your own mental attitude, outlook, you can make your day or mar your day. You can make your life happy or unhappy. That we all know. Once I was attending this Mind Life conference in Dharamsala several years back. And then there was a lot of discussion about who does the thinking, whether the brain does the thinking, the mind does the thinking. There was a lot of exchanges. Then during the tea break, I told few Westerners and some other people, I said, I have good news. And then they said, Geshe, what is the good news? Then I said, the good news, at least for my layman's understanding, the good news is I don't care so much about who does the thinking, whether it's the brain or the mind. But the good news for me is if you make the effort and think, you can change. That is good news. Doesn't really matter whether it's the brain that is changing or the mind that is changing. Your mental perspective makes a huge difference in terms of quality of your life. So that is in your hand. So that is why the Buddhist teachers, they say there is nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. There's nobody who will catch hold of your leg and drag you into hell. Your happiness, your suffering is in your hand. Do not cheat yourself. So it is really not so much cheating from other people. It is our own cheating. I'm not saying intentionally, but because of ignorance, we cheat ourselves by doing those things which we should not be doing and not doing those things which we should be doing. So therefore, obsession with oneself is something that you should not be doing. If you do that, you will not be able to do genuine Dharma practice. Because clinging to this life, clinging to the samsara, and then at the same time thinking about nirvana is impossible. This is contradiction. You see. Right? So that part we yesterday read, and also we read from the three principal aspects of the path. So today we are going to read the second line, which says, these three realms of samsara are like a poisonous fruit, delicious at first, but ultimately harmful. Anyone who is attached to them must be deluded. It is because of delusion. It's because of delusion we see the glamours of the samsara as wonderful, as good, and we run after that, cling on to that. But the teaching says it's really like poisonous fruit. It looks very nice from the outside, and when you eat it, because it is poisonous, it will kill you. Yes, right? And it's very striking to see, like, you go to the market and visit a big mall. and see carefully how they are selling their product. The one that's most important thing for the merchants, the sellers, is they will wrap everything nicely. What is being wrapped inside, nobody knows how old it is. But it's wrapped nicely, knowing the fact that we are a bunch of gullible people, and we are very attracted to the superficial external wrapping, the outside. Marriage is done by looking at the face of the people. She is beautiful or not, he is handsome or not. Go to the shopping, we look at the external superficial wrapping. Take the example of a fruit juice packet. Outside it's colorful, yellow, white, it's so nice. The juice inside may be, I don't know how many months old. I can bet, it's 100% sure it's several months old. It will not smell because they put some chemicals inside, and which is not good for health. But stupid as we are, we buy all those things, spend a lot of money, the hard-earned money. You see? So instead of that, actually it's much better that you just drink water, boiled water, which is free, very good for you. But look at this. In the name of socializing, in the name of status, we go to fancy hotels and spend so much money. This is just an example. I'm not trying to turn the clock back, but I'm just trying to give you an example. Okay? So clinging. So what this line is saying, that even if you, let us say, hopefully, if you stop clinging to this life, hopefully, if you do that, you made a lot of progress. But even after that, it is possible that you may cling to the next life, that samsara, clinging to the three samsara. May I actualize precious human life in the future lives? And he told us how stupid we are. This precious human life you have already obtained, which you are wasting, and then saying, how nice if I obtain precious human life in the future lives. This is called delusion. So therefore, what these teachings are saying is, make the best use of this precious human life which you already obtained. And without using that, praying that may I obtain precious human life in the future. This is a kind of classic example of how we cheat ourselves, you see. In the future, whether we are going to get this precious human life or not, it's not sure. It's not easy to obtain this precious human life again and again. But right now you have obtained this. So at least don't misuse it. Even if you are unable to make great practices, but at least make good use of it, in the sense that you live your life trying to make other people's life of other sentient beings, peaceful, harmonious, happy, contribute to that. If you do that, you are doing Dharma practice. Now since we use this word Dharma practice, what is Dharma practice? When we say Dharma practice, what is Dharma? Non-killing. What? Gomlam. Thongomlam. Gogum. So, for example, if a non-Buddhist refrains from killing, is it a Dharma practice? Non-Buddhist. Is it Dharma practice? Huh? No? So are you saying that only Buddhists can do Dharma practice?
Motivation, intention.
Yeah, they may also have good motivation, they may also have good intention. So then, is it Dharma practice? Huh?
Yes.
In a way, yes, you are right. Loosely speaking, you can say it's a religious practice. But here, for the good, strict Buddhist practitioners, what is important for us to remember is, when we talk about doing Buddhist Dharma practice, the word Dharma refers to Nirvana. Whatever practices, including non-killing, etc., that you do with the objective to achieve Nirvana, then that becomes Dharma practice. Otherwise, not the Dharma practice that we are talking about. Tharva thopna samne. Gyaltsen ta di tanda nangchu lawe ditu. Right? So these three realms in samsara are like a poisonous fruit, delicious at first but ultimately harmful. Anyone who is attached to them must be deluded. Now that does not mean to say that you immediately like get divorced from your family. Say that this world has no meaning, that you try to become a monk and nun, throw all your wealth. We are not saying that. We are not saying that. What we are saying is you should see the limitations of the samsaric pleasures and don't cling to it, as we already discussed about not clinging to this life. Similarly, don't cling, don't get obsessed with this by seeing the limitations it can offer. For your long-term peace, long-term happiness, they are more or less irrelevant. With this understanding. So therefore, the text from three principal aspects of the path. Verse number 6, or what? 4 away. Oh, four away. Yeah. 4. Contemplating how freedom and fortune are difficult to find, and that in life there is no time to waste, blocks the attraction to captivating appearances of this life that we already read. Now, second, repeatedly contemplating actions' infallible effects, meaning that whatever positive actions, negative actions that you do, you will have to experience the consequences. There is no cheating here. You may be able to cheat the police, you may be able to cheat your teacher and so forth, but the law of karma is infallible, meaning that sooner or later you will have to experience the result. That means whatever you do, whether you know it or don't know it, it leaves an imprint in your mind, meaning that it becomes a habit, and that habit will gradually produce fruit. For example, I'm sure all of you have this experience that sometimes without any reason, strange ideas come in your mind. Sometimes without any reason, or without any special communication, you just get the reflection, that today I'm going to meet this person. And you do meet that person. How these things happen? And also when we go to the marketplace with different people, you may be seeing somebody for the first time, but you feel like talking to that person. Then equally there is another person who also you are meeting for the first time, but you feel like unhappiness by seeing that person without any reason. This probably is related to your past life's experiences. You see. Right? So therefore, whatever you do, you will have to experience the result. So repeatedly contemplating means this understanding will not come in your mind with just one thinking or two thinking. So you need to repeatedly think about this, how this is possible. Repeatedly contemplating actions' infallible effects and the sufferings of cyclic existence blocks the captivating appearances for future lives. Meaning that when you think that one, there's no escape from experiencing the result if you had committed a negative action. Second, so long as you are within the samsara, it doesn't really matter whether you are in the samsara in this life or in the samsara in the future lives. The problem is same. The problem is same. So therefore, when you are able to understand the limitations of the life in the samsara, and what is samsara? Korwa sena kare. Samsara, cyclic existence, korwa, karinala. This very psychophysical aggregate is korwa. 먼저 바바기 남이 가실래 그래. 나를 내가 망보인 다 korwa kor디요. 나를 디 korwa 디 말. Korwa means this psychophysical aggregate itself, which is a product of negative action and contaminated contaminated action and afflictive emotions. Because we have this kind of psychophysical aggregate, therefore we are prone to all kind of problems, difficulties. We are susceptible to all kind of ups and downs because of this very nature of this psychophysical. Di khorwa. Dunge khorwa chen phungbus. So to come out of samsara means basically to take a life which is not subject to the dictates of contaminated action and afflictive emotions. To take a life which is not prone to afflictive emotions, which is not prone to sufferings. Now look at this. This is made of flesh, bones, fragile things inside. Very especially if you look at the internal organs, they're so fragile. So fragile. And then Buddha's teaching, impermanence is so clear. Outside it looks okay, it's plastered, all the fragile things are put inside, in the very center. Then it's covered with the ribs as a cage, Then plastered with flesh, and then covered with skin. Skin also dermis, epidermis, different layers. I told you this story many times. Once I was flying from, I think, America to India, probably after a transit in Germany. I read about this modern packaging system. That was very convincing to me. And in that article it says, whatever is more fragile, they are packed more carefully and more nicely. So with that reading, I got the understanding, we are very fragile, impermanent, because we are packed so nicely. Packed so nicely. So from there I got the temptation that we should hang on our neck a placard saying, fragile, handle me carefully. It's really like that, absolutely like that, because people are very fragile, The words you say, they'll get hurt. Things you do, they get hurt, you see. Very fragile. And therefore Nagarjuna said in his letter to the friend that to go to bed and sleep and that to be able to wake up next morning is a magic and mystery. Because the distance between life and death is just this breath. If you breathe out, could not breathe in, that's called future life. Kevachima. You don't have to buy a special train ticket or air ticket and go somewhere, no. It's that easy. So therefore, that is the reason that when you go to bed, tomorrow being able to wake up, appreciate that. I'm really lucky. Again I got this wonderful, precious human life. Again I got another day to do wonderful things which you are able to do in many ways. You see. And then that will also, when you understand this impermanence of fragility of the body, that will also help you to take more care of your body. When we don't understand this fragility, imagine the food habit that we have. We put everything in our mouth. I like sour, I like bitter, I like hot, put everything. Imagine. How can you be healthy? So this understanding of these teachings will really help you not only improve your mental health but also physical health. And today it's scientifically found that people who have more compassionate, patient, tolerant attitude, they are physically much better. Much better. Because the sufferings that you get are very much related to your thinking. Right? So repeatedly contemplate. So these words, Tsongkhapa was a very prolific writer and very careful. Each and every word that he chooses has a meaning. He says repeatedly. There will be no effect if you think about action and their result just today and then forget for the next 7 months or 7 years. Then again go to a teacher and listen. That will not help you. Repeatedly. Somebody once asked me this question, Geshe, when we receive a tantric initiation, then the master says, you do this 6 session Guru Yoga practice. Why do you have to do this 6 times? which looks like a good question. I also had that question before. Why it will be simpler if we do it three times or maybe 2 times, 6 times too much. And I could not answer. Then later I thought, I found an answer. So these days when people ask me such questions, then I answer by saying, okay, wait. First I will ask you a question and answer that question. How many times you eat? For the body, how many times you eat? Breakfast, lunch, definitely dinner, then in between, Kit Kat. So many other things right? So for the body you need to 5, 6, 7 times you have to eat. Then why not for the mind also? The formula, the process is similar. So that's what he's saying, repeatedly contemplating actions and infallible effects and the sufferings of cycle existence. Sufferings of cycle existence also is not just saying that even if there is no suffering, you think about the sufferings of cycle existence. Sufferings of cycle existence is rampant, it is very much there. So understand that. And then if you think like that, then it will stop, this will block the captivating appearances of future lives. Because the future lives, it may be very captivating, Even in this life, you plan for the rest of your life. I'll do this next year, I'll do this year, then I'll become this, You make a lot of plans. And you forget to live today. Today is the day which you have right now. And we waste while away that day and think about tomorrow. You waste this whole year and think about the next years to come. And for this Aryadeva, in his 400 verses, he is actually, for me, it looks like he is scolding the people by saying, he says, why you are keeping yourself as a hostage? Meaning you are keeping your present life as a hostage. Not being able to live happily, not being able to enjoy, and then thinking about the future, you keep on doing negative things. Hostage. Because you are not enjoying right now. You are only planning for the future. And for that future, you are committing sins. Very profound. So therefore, it is important to the best way of preparing for future life is living the present life properly. Verse number 5, the measure of having generated a determination to be free. What is the measure by which you can say you have developed renunciation? Having familiarized yourself in this way, there's thinking about the meaning of the verses that we explained in verse number 4. In this way, if you do not generate admiration for the prosperity of cycle existence even for an instant, that means if you repeatedly think about the lackluster or the sufferings of the samsara repeatedly, then as a result, if you don't see any appreciation or admiration to the cycle existence even for a moment, and not only that, instead of admiring the cycle existence, if you develop a wish to gain liberation, nirvana, day and night, at that time you have generated the determination to be free. So it's not easy. The measure by which we can say you have developed genuine renunciation is that you don't have an inch of attraction to the samsara, and day and night you long for nirvana, then that is the measure. In our daily life, it happens in the cases of some bodily experiences. When you are looking after something, you day and night think about that. You see, you dream that person or whatever. You see, so that kind of attitude has to be there. So now here, this is not easy to completely, forget about the admiration to the samsara, cycle existence, and day and night long for nirvana. But what we can start doing is, for example, you think about the benefits of bodhicitta, think about the benefits of renunciation. Read the text, take refuge, cultivate bodhicitta, read the text repeatedly, and especially before sleeping. do little bit of this repetitions on bodhicitta, renunciation, things like that, and then with some prayer go to sleep. In the dream, in the night also you will repeat many of these verses. That's how we can get used to it happens actually. Because the good news with the mind is, the mind can be trained in whatever area you want to train it. There's nothing that will not become easy if you train your mind. So don't think it is difficult. Get rid of this ghost difficulty. Right? So it's important to start doing that, and you will then start experiencing. Like for example, just before sleeping, if you think about His Holiness or Buddha, do some meditation and sleep, it's very likely that you will see him in the night few times. And when you get more and more used to with that, it will become a regular phenomena. Right? So these things doesn't happen because we don't contemplate, don't meditate, don't make effort. Instead, just before sleeping, we see a horror movie or a movie on sex, whatever you see. So you see the same thing in the night. You get nightmare, fighting with you are the hero and then fighting with somebody, you see. Because in the dream you are always the hero. Right? Right? Because this shows you are grasping to yourself. So with this practice now make sure that someone else becomes the hero, not just you all the time. Next one. So that we'll read a few verses quickly, I think. So next point is Yeah. The third point is, if you cling to your self-interest, you are not a bodhicitta. You are not a bodhisattva. If you cling to your self-interest, here in the text it says not being attached to your own self-interest. That means if you cling to your self-interest, then you are not a bodhisattva. So Sakya Pandita, he writes, attachment to your own self-interest is like nurturing the child of an enemy. It may bring joy at first, but in the end only leads to ruin. Just so, attachment to your own welfare brings happiness in the short term, but eventually leads you to the lower realms. There's no need to explain this, it's quite easy. It's like nurturing the child of enemy. When the child of the enemy grows and realizes that this person who is looking after me had killed my father, mother and so forth, the child will revenge. So like that. It may bring joy at first. Like for example, if just for your own simple pleasures you go after this, you may get some joy, some kind of sensual pleasure. But in the long run, it will harm you. And today the world is after sensual pleasures. Hardly anybody is working for cultivation of the mind. And what is flooding in the market is to fulfill the needs of these sensual pleasures. Something to see, something to smell, something to taste, something to hear, something to touch. That's what is, those 5 sensual objects is flooding in the market. And hardly anybody has time to employ the real boss. The real boss is not the 5 senses, but your mind. Your mind is your boss. So if you let the boss go wild, in other words, if your boss is a dictator, a terrorist, then how can you, as somebody controlled by that dictator, that terrorist, how can you even have happiness? So right now our mind is controlled by the dictators, the terrorists, the self-cherishing attitude, the self-grasping, ignorance. They have captured the headquarters of our mind and they are relaxing, sipping nice cup of tea, whatever. They have hijacked our life. So it is because of this selfishness and ignorance that even though we want happiness, we are not getting it. Even though we don't want suffering, we get ample of it, lot of it. So that's the problem. So doing Dharma practice, again here, doing Dharma practice here therefore means now dethroning self-cherishing attitude and dethroning ignorance. So these two we will discuss today and tomorrow, especially tomorrow. Now two things, some of you who have attended my talks earlier, I am sure you know this by now, I hope. But here now you remember two things that is constantly talked about in the Buddhist teachings. Conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Kundub Changju Jisem, Tönam Changju Jisem. These two are the main subjects of all the Buddhist teachings. Conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Kenswa, Tinitiba, Kundub Changju Jisem, Tönam Changju Jisem. Conventional bodhicitta means bodhicitta, Changju Sem, Chikpare. Bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta is not bodhicitta, but wisdom, understanding emptiness. But it's called bodhicitta because it will also help you achieve that bodhi. It's also a mind that will help you achieve enlightenment, the bodhi. Therefore it is called ultimate bodhicitta, but it's not bodhicitta. So these two, really the most precious thing that you should have. Conventional bodhicitta, Changju Sem, and wisdom, understanding emptiness. Why these two are so important? Just as the self-cherishing attitude and ignorance are the bosses of all the negative emotions, similarly, bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding emptiness, these two are the bosses of all the virtuous practices. Now our task as a Dharma practitioner is to uproot, banish, kick out the two sworn enemy, the two negative bosses. What are they? Tahako Chegurda. Tahako Chegurda. Now you must understand this. Take this when you go after the teaching tomorrow. Otherwise you'll go empty-handed. The two sworn enemies are ignorance and Tahako Chegurda Yakutakda. Now self-cherishing attitude doesn't mean that you should not cherish yourself, you do not take care of it. No. Self-cherishing attitude is negative here. Meaning, self-cherishing attitude means thinking just about yourself and completely forgetting about the needs of others. This self-cherishing attitude. That's one enemy. The second enemy is ignorance. Ignorance is not just lack of knowledge, but misconception of the reality. Ignorance is not just lack of knowledge, but misconception of reality. Now what is reality? Reality is that everything is interconnected, interdependent. But this ignorance, which is misconception of reality, thinks that things have independent existence, inherent existence, absolute existence. Now when you have this ignorance which sees everything as having independent, inherent existence, that's the root cause of all the problems. Therefore we say ignorance is the root of samsara. Because when you see everything as having independent, inherent existence, then huge problem arises. Because when you like somebody, not only you like that person, you tend to see this person 100% beautiful, 100% good. And what is wrong with that? It's not realistic. That person may be good, but not necessarily 100%. When you see this person, wow, 100% good, what is the problem? You get obsessed with it. I must have this, without which I'll die. Obsession. You become blind. That's how we deal with our relatives. My relatives, they're 100% good. You develop so much obsession and attachment, which leads to problem. You are unable to see the reality. Then those other side, like enemy, which you don't like, again with this tendency to see things as having 100% inherent objective existence, you tend to see that enemy 100% horrible, unchangeable, in and out negative. Now if you have that kind of attitude with your enemy or person you don't like, how can you have negotiation? How can you have dialogue? How can you have discussion? That's why despite the senseless torture, mistreatment done by the Chinese government, he's always talking about negotiation, dialogue. You see? And those of us who don't have that understand, how can we have dialogue with this sworn enemy? You see? So we see everything in white and black terms. And therefore what the Buddha taught was, no, it's not like that. He taught about the middle way. Things exist, but do not exist independently. Things exist, but do not exist independently. Therefore things are interconnected, interrelated. Now when we say things are interdependent, interconnected, it's really saying that we can change things. Because if things are interconnected, interrelated, dependent on causes and conditions, then we can change it. That's how he taught the Four Noble Truths. He saw suffering, he saw people having a lot of suffering, he saw people wanting happiness, but people are not making effort to get happiness, people are not making effort to remove suffering. Therefore then the Buddha said, why they are not making effort? Yes, it is true they have suffering, but suffering has its cause. So if you don't want suffering, then take note of the cause of suffering, eliminate it, reduce it, you will have less suffering. If you want happiness, don't just wait there, find out the causes of happiness, cultivate it, cherish it, nurture it, you will be happier. So this whole concept is based on this understanding of dependent origination. So understanding of dependent origination is very liberating, freeing. It gives you this flexibility of doing many things. You see. Whereas if everything has independent, inherent existence, there's nothing we can do. It is as it is. Right? So, to make a long story short, who are the two enemies? Little bit louder. Self-cherishing attitude and ignorance. What is the meaning of ignorance? Misconception of reality, meaning seeing things as having inherent independent existence. Now what are the two counter forces against these two horrible enemies? Bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, emptiness. Repeat this again and again, otherwise I am not going to proceed further. So who are the two counter forces? Wisdom, emptiness. Bodhicitta is counter force to what? Self-cherishing attitude. Self-cherishing attitude says, I take care of myself only, nobody else. And Bodhicitta says, take care of everybody. So it's the counter force. Ignorance mind, the mind which is of ignorance, it says that things exist independent, inherently. The wisdom, understanding, emptiness says, no. Things have no inherent independent existence. Things have interconnected reality. So therefore these two teachings of bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, emptiness, this is your most important practice for the rest of your life. Whether you do sutric practice, whether you do tantric practice, whatever philosophical systems you study, if you have these two things, you have really caught the heart of the Buddha's teaching. If you don't have this, then you do some small side business, reciting some mantra, going around. And the more you think about this, the more you think about these two qualities of bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, emptiness, the more you will be like amazed by the richness of these thoughts, the usefulness of these thoughts. One very famous teacher from Kinor, Khundu Lama Rinpoche, he wrote a text called Praising the Bodhicitta. Where he says, if you are happy, meditate on bodhicitta. If you are unhappy, meditate on bodhicitta. If you want success in this life, meditate on bodhicitta. Success in the future life, bodhicitta. It's really like panacea which cures all illnesses. Amazing. And this is absolutely true. If you really think more about others' well-beings, when you see other people, oh, this person also is born to die, this person also will get sick, It's only a matter of time. If you need to sit somebody and ask the question. I had these small experiences here and there, and I'm sure you have this. Once I accompanied a physician from medical center, and they requested me to go with him as a translator. When I was a student in the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics. So I was his kind of assistant, helping give the Tibetan medicine and translate his talks and things like that. So when we visited the 4 Scandinavian countries, so when people come to consult the doctor, in the beginning it doesn't look like they're sick. They come with nice clothes, a handbag, carrying handbag with nice cosmetics, and tag, looks really nice. And when they see it before the physician, and the physician diagnoses the pulses, I'm not exaggerating, this is what I saw, what I heard. Almost everybody has 3-4 different kind of problems, illnesses. That is life. And then I had the privilege of working in His Holiness Dalai Lama's office. And whenever somebody with philosophical questions or religious questions, then they will dumb me down. The secretaries dumb me down. Geshe, you go. So then I go as if I have something to say. I go down and deal with these peoples. Again, so many different, strange problems, difficulties. And from there I got some inkling of idea that, then I got some inkling of idea that unless you are omniscient, you will not be able to fulfill everybody's needs. And from there I also learned that be compassionate and firm. Because you meet so many strange people that you cannot always say, he, who. No, it doesn't work. But in your mind, you should always be compassionate, understanding their reality. So these things, we learn by actually confronting people, you see. So whatever be the case, there's nobody who is really not suffering or not having problem. Once you have this understanding, this is not to say that you will immediately become a bodhisattva, you will never get angry, you will become patient, boom, enlightenment. No, that's not possible. It doesn't happen with me and doesn't happen with everybody like that. But this doesn't mean that you don't change. You change. Even if you get angry, there will be less resentment. There will be less hatred. For example, if I fight violently with somebody, some Kunsang is working in my office, so I might fight with her, We might fight, I'd get angry, I scold her, probably bully her a little bit. Then after that, I try to talk to her. No hatred. I'm not saying I have all these qualities, but it happens, you see. So the important thing is deep down resentment, hatred, disliking to people, it will not be there. If that is not there, then life is very easy. And that is possible if you have this understanding of other people's life and if you have a little bit of love and care to other people. Like take the example of your family members. Your family members are not divine beings. But how can you cope with your family members? As I said, they are not enlightened beings. They are also like all of us, rest of us. But you are able to function very well with your, not always successful, but at least quite good. And this is not to say that you never had any disagreement among your family members. You do have disagreement among your family members, you do get angry, but do you maintain hatred? In some cases maybe, but generally not. Because you have understanding, because you have love. Whereas with the rest of the people, we don't have their love. So therefore, when you get angry, you get angry. Okay, this is the end of the story. I'm not going to see your face, ugly face. I'm not going to talk to you. This shows you neither have the understanding of other people's suffering, nor you have genuine care and love to other people. Am I saying something stupid? Or is this seems to be true? Really? So the more you understand other people's fragility, as I had said, fragility, vulnerability, doesn't matter how much ever they pretend they are somebody. I know who is somebody. Today's president may be tomorrow in the prison. Today's president, prime minister may be killed in the battlefield. This is a news that we read all the time. The so-called high up will be trampled under the feet tomorrow. This youthfulness will also fade away, just like the flower at the end of the autumn. So once you understand this, there will be much, much, much less feeling of hatred, enmity, disliking, and there will be a little bit more caring or love. And that's what we need to fare well in this samsara. So therefore, these precious qualities like bodhicitta are really, really like a cure for all illnesses that we see today in the world from that perspective. Okay, some questions? The finishing, don't worry, I'll read tomorrow. I'll gallop tomorrow. Any questions? Any burning questions? Yes.
Geshe, you spoke about Amritsar. What did you say? Karma. You told us like an anecdote, and you said it may be karma.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be karma. Like it could be karma. So I was wondering what you think about, like how do you, what do you think about karma versus something that's a coincidence? And does coincidence even exist if karma is all about?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So how do you know when you're
Karma is a broad term.
Yeah.
Karma has no fatalistic notion. Meaning that when we talk about karma, we are not saying that your fate is determined, there's nothing you can do. No. Simply said, karma means action. So depending upon your action also not necessarily actions of past lives. It may be the action that you did this morning, that's your karma also. So whatever kind of activities or actions that you do, it will have its consequences, the fruit. That is basically called law of causality. So much of the things that we experience are related to our activities in that way. But at the same time, we talk about causes and conditions. So sometimes it may not be just karma, but also there are some activating forces. But it's very difficult. This is a very difficult question. It's very difficult to make a clear-cut demarcation. And I remember his always saying, like when we talk about karma, we are primarily talking about the experiences that we get, the happy experiences and suffering experiences. So that is dependent upon our actions in the past. Now, for example, if suddenly there is a wind, strong wind, and a lot of leaves fall from the tree, we will not say this is karma. No, we are not so stupid to say things like that. But if the tree falls and hit your head and it kills you or you're wounded, due to karma. It's related to your experiences. So that's how we define. Okay? Any? Yeah.
Geshe, you have mentioned that your mind is a boss.
Huh?
Your mind is a boss.
Boss, exactly.
And then you also mentioned that you have to control your own mind.
Exactly.
And who is that you? I'm not a little bit confused with who's telling you that you have.
Exactly, very good point. This question of who is the I, who is the you, is a very complex question that in the Indian philosophical tradition and also in the West, in all the philosophical tradition, they asked about this question about who is the I or the you for several thousands of years. Still they are asking this question, still you are asking this question. So in the highest Buddhist teaching, in the Madhyamika teaching, it makes a distinction between the mind and the you. Because, for example, when I say, my mind is not happy, my body is not happy, so you are making a distinction between the body and the mind and the I. So I is the possessor of the body and the mind. And mind and body is what is being possessed by the I. So that is trying to show that there is something called I which is separate from the mind and body. But if you ask me, how will you show that? How would you demonstrate that? So in a way this is very, very complex. But in a way not so complex. Because the whole, not so complex in the sense that the whole reality of everything is complex in a sense. That's why when you try to understand the I, it becomes complex. Now, for example, let me give you a simple example. For example, this finger. Is this my finger? Is this finger? Is this finger? So which one? The finger has like 3-4 joints. So if I take the first joint out, is that finger then the remaining? Then I take the two joints again. Then only one section left. Is that finger? And moreover, which one is the finger? The skin? The bones inside? So what I'm trying to say is, with each and every phenomenon, if you try to pinpoint by peeling off the layers it has, the features it has, you will not find anything. And that is one reason why we say that everything comes into being by depending on multiplicity of causes and conditions. If you take out all these factors and then try to get something as an essence, you will never get it. It's like banana tree or onion. People who have no idea about banana tree or onion, they might think there must be something like essence, hard core. But you feel, you'll just, what you find is peel after peel, peel after peel. It's really like that. So these are like, that's why Tsongkhapa, very famous teacher who wrote these 3 principal aspects of the path, when he wrote this another beautiful text called Praising the Dependent Origination. Praising the dependent origination. What he was saying in that text is, he was praising the Buddha by praising dependent origination that the Buddha taught. And he said, he was such a great thinker, Buddha, Tsongkhapa. But he repeatedly says, Buddha, how did you figure this out? This meaning of dependent origination, where things exist, but you can't lay your hands upon any of these things. It's almost like magic and mystery. Doesn't mean things exist. Things exist. They exist like a dream, like a hallucination. The more I think about it, the more I'm amazed. How did you figure this out? So today the science is going a little bit towards that direction when they talk about the general theory of relativity or special theory of relativity. And these days now they are talking about the wave particle duality. When you thought it's a wave, it becomes a particle. When you thought it's a particle, it becomes a wave. You see? So when you try to lay your hands upon that object and try to catch it naked, you will never get anything. Not the eye, even the mind, even the body. So at this point, all I can say is it's just a designation, like any other thing. I is just a designation. But now this is complicated. Therefore, it's not enough that you attend few sessions. You need to start studying a little bit rigorously to understand these things. These are quite complex. So I'm trying to, based on my little understanding, try to make it as clear as possible. But it's not that easy, right? Okay. So everything is just designated. But this does not again mean to say that you create anything by designation. I cannot make this book become a brick of gold by thinking this is not a book, this is a brick of gold, and then boom, you have a brick of gold. Geshe Lhakdor becomes wealthy overnight. No, it's not possible. So no, see the fun. One, it is saying things are just designated. But at the same time, it is not saying that you can designate anything and create anything. That's Kakudwa, right? Okay, any other questions?
So in that case, can we look the interdependent concept as emptiness?
Exactly. Interdependent origination, emptiness, and emptiness are two sides of the same coin. I'll explain this tomorrow more. Two sides of the same coin. Okay? In other words, next 5 minutes what I'm going to explain. In other words, things exist, right? Things exist. You are existing, I'm existing, things exist. When things exist, there are only two ways of existence: dependent existence and independent existence. Dependent existence, independent existence, they are mutually exclusive. There's no third possibility. It has to be one of them, either dependent on existence or independent existence. Now at least what we have agreed upon is one thing, that things exist, right? And that there are two alternatives only. So which one is right? Exist dependently or independently? Huh? Because of Bangalore, recently I was in Bangalore, giving talks to around 200 Tibetan teachers on secular ethics, So there were some former speakers, on the first 1 or 2 days there were some speakers who spoke beautifully, but everybody is very serious. So my turn came and then I said, I saw you, none of you are laughing, you need to learn laughing a little bit. So I was provoking them. So here also I'm provoking you. So things exist, there are only two possibilities, so which one is correct? Things exist? Dependently, no. A little bit louder.
Dependently.
Things exist? Dependently. Therefore, there is no independent existence. Having no independent existence is called emptiness. Emptiness is not equal to nothingness. Emptiness means empty of independent existence. Master of emptiness now. Really, in a way, it's we need to simplify it to get some understanding. Things exist. There are only two ways of existence: dependent existence, independent existence. And we basically have some rough idea. Things have dependent existence. Therefore, there is no independent existence. So, empty of that independent existence is called emptiness. Emptiness means empty of independent existence. Huh? Nothing. There's nothing that is independent. Nothing whatsoever. Either things exist by depending on causes and conditions, or things exist by depending on names and terms that we give. Even in the case of permanent phenomena, which is a better candidate to become independently existing, but even in the case of the so-called permanent phenomena, the so-called permanent phenomena become permanent phenomena because we give a name, permanent. So again, it's dependent on the name and the terms and the designations that we give. So there's nothing whatsoever, permanent, impermanent phenomena, which is not dependent on something. Satisfied? I'll stop here.